Hello, people. Today we will talk about Richard Nixon. Richard Milhouse Nixon was the 37th President of the United States, serving from 1969 to 1974. His presidency is most remembered for the Watergate scandal, which led to his resignation, the first and only in U.S. history. Despite the controversy, Nixon was a significant figure in American politics, with accomplishments in foreign policy, particularly regarding relations with China and the Soviet Union, and domestic reforms. Nixon was born in Yorba Linda, California, to a poor Quaker family. His parents, Francis A. Nixon and Hannah Milhouse Nixon, instilled in him a strong work ethic and a sense of discipline. Nixon's childhood was marked by financial struggles, and he faced the early deaths of two of his brothers. He excelled academically, graduating as valedictorian from Whittier College in 1934 and later attending Duke University School of Law, where he finished third in his class in 1937. After practicing law, Nixon entered politics in 1946 when he won a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives for California. As a congressman, he gained national attention for his role in the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUA, particularly for his pursuit of Alger Hiss, a State Department official accused of being a Soviet spy. In 1950, Nixon was elected to the U.S. Senate, and 2 years later he was chosen as Dwight D. Eisenhower's running mate in the 1952 presidential election. Nixon became vice president at the age of 39. During his time as vice president, he built a reputation as a staunch anti-communist and was involved in both foreign and domestic policy. One of his defining moments was his Checkers speech in 1952, where he defended himself against accusations of financial impropriety, earning public sympathy and saving his place on the Republican ticket. In 1960, Nixon ran for president but narrowly lost to John F. Kennedy in one of the closest elections in U.S. history. After his defeat, he returned to California, where he ran unsuccessfully for governor in 1962. Following this second defeat, he famously told reporters, "You won't have Nixon to kick around anymore," signaling what seemed to be the end of his political career. However, Nixon staged a remarkable political comeback, positioning himself as the Republican candidate for the presidency in 1968. Amidst the turmoil of the Vietnam War and widespread social unrest, Nixon promised to restore law and order and appealed to the silent majority. He won the 1968 election, defeating Democratic candidate Hubert Humphrey. Nixon's domestic policies focused on reducing the size of the federal government and decentralizing power. His administration implemented revenue-sharing programs and created several significant agencies, including the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, in 1970. Nixon also expanded Social Security and endorsed affirmative action policies, particularly through the Philadelphia Plan, which required contractors to hire minority workers. Nixon's presidency is best known for its groundbreaking foreign policy initiatives. He and his national security advisor and later Secretary of State Henry Kissinger redefined U.S. relations with the world, especially regarding China and the Soviet Union. Opening to China, in 1972, Nixon made a historic visit to the People's Republic of China, marking the first time a sitting U.S. president had visited the communist nation. His efforts to normalize relations with China shifted the global balance of power and opened a new chapter in U.S.-China diplomacy. Détente with the Soviet Union. Nixon pursued a policy of détente with the Soviet Union, easing Cold War tensions. In 1972, he signed the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks (SALT-I) treaty with Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev, which was the first major arms control agreement between the two superpowers. Vietnam War. Nixon sought to end U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, a conflict that had divided the nation. He initiated a policy called Vietnamization, which aimed to gradually withdraw U.S. troops while transferring combat responsibilities to the South Vietnamese. In 1973, the Paris Peace Accords were signed, ending direct U.S. involvement in the war, though fighting continued until the fall of Saigon in 1975. Nixon's presidency, however, was overshadowed by the Watergate scandal, a political controversy stemming from the break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C., in June 1972, and the subsequent cover-up by members of Nixon's administration. Facing imminent impeachment, Nixon announced his resignation on August 8, 1974, effective the next day. Vice President Gerald Ford succeeded him and later pardoned Nixon for any crimes he may have committed while in office. After leaving office, Nixon retreated from public life for several years, but he gradually returned as an elder statesman and foreign policy expert. He wrote several books and gave interviews, attempting to rehabilitate his public image. While Nixon remained a polarizing figure, his insights on foreign policy were respected, and he continued to engage in public discourse until his death. Richard Nixon died on April 22, 1994, at the age of 81, following complications from a stroke. His funeral was attended by political leaders from around the world, marking his significant, albeit controversial, impact on American and global politics. Nixon's legacy is complex. He is credited with significant accomplishments in foreign policy and domestic reforms, yet his involvement in the Watergate scandal tarnished his reputation, leaving him as one of the most divisive figures in U.S. political history. His presidency highlighted the tensions between power, governance, and accountability, shaping public perceptions of American politics for generations. I ask you to like the video, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you later.